I want to be strong. This is the road to strength. This is the road to courage. Therefore, I'm going to consider this a gift. What punishments from God are not also gifts? Stephen Colbert. It's a very stoic quote. Obviously, it references God, which is kind of a more Christian way of phrasing that idea of resilience. And I have a few more here, quotes that I'll share with you throughout the episode, but that one hits me really, really well. I like that, the way that he phrased that. What punishments from God are not also gifts? Now, if you wanted to stoic that quote up a little bit, you could still use God as long as you replace capital G God with, say, lowercase g God, and you're thinking about it more the way that Stoicism at its core thinks about God. But you could also say, what punishments from life are not also gifts? And so what this means is, we go through life and we feel, for good reason many times, that the punishments that life gives us are curses. I mean, they're punishments. Think about that word punishment. A punishment is something that you do something wrong and you have a consequence, and that consequence is normally a painful one, and that's a punishment. And so in some sense, you could say this quote reflects the idea that as we're stumbling forward towards sageism, we miss the mark, and life slaps us for that. It punishes us in some sense. And so it doesn't have to be anything damning. It's a natural thing in life that as you go through life and you make mistakes and you miss the mark, life slaps you on the wrist sometimes, and sometimes it full out slaps you on the face. So punishment sounds like, again, something that's damning. But for anyone that's missed the mark, obviously, at certain times in their life, you'll know that there's normally a consequence. There's normally something, let's say, painful that happens as a result of that. As an example, ego lifting in the gym. Ego lifting is when you go in and you lift weight that you shouldn't even be really considering because, I don't know, there's a pretty girl that's watching you squat or something, and so you load up the bar, you squat really deep, and then you pull a hamstring because your form's terrible. Ego lifting. And so in that case, you could say, well, because of my ego, life punished me for that because here I have this injury. And so the Stoic contention there is, okay, that's an outcome, but I did not maximize my agency. I did not humble myself in the gym. I did not accept where I am, and therefore there's a snapback. There's a slap in the face. And so punishments, when we miss the mark, when we are not, let's say, acting appropriately, life slaps us across the face. And so you could look at that word punishment. You can get bogged down with that, right? Because you can think, okay, I'm clearly going to make mistakes. I'm clearly going to miss the mark throughout life. And can I just always be in a state of suffering? Like, is that going to be the result here? It's a fair question. But of course, we know as Stoics, and in this case, Stephen as presumably a Christian, I suppose, that we can look at those quote, quote, punishments as not just gifts, but also gifts. Meaning we can still look at that as, hey, I tore my hamstring because of my ego lifting. I can still look at that and say, that's a lesson I had to learn. That's a lesson that life gave me because Well, I had too big of an ego in the gym under the squat bar. So that's true. And what's also true is you could say that's also a gift, because it's a gift. It's the gift of humility. And so if you tear your hamstring in the gym because of ego lifting, that's a natural way of humbling yourself. It's a very painful way of humbling yourself, but it's a way of saying, okay, you're not as good as you think you are. Maybe you should tone it down a little bit. Maybe you should get a coach. Maybe you should take 50% off the bar, learn proper form. You need to humble yourself. You need to recognize who you are and where you are. And so it's not always easy. In fact, it's very difficult for us to see this as we're going through it. But every painful thing, and I'm saying painful thing, everything in life that you go through that might be considered a punishment, they're also gifts, because it allows you to learn from your mistakes. It allows you to ultimately get better, and that's obviously where we want to go. We want to get better. Let me read you this quote from Khalil Gibran. Out of suffering have emerged the strongest souls. The most massive characters are seared with scars. Suffering, man. Physical suffering, emotional suffering, withstanding punishment from life. Man, that's what creates strength. That's what creates strength. I mean, you can imagine a situation where someone is born into a very easy life. These lives don't make strong people. The most massive characters, as Gibran says, are seared with scars. Scars. Now, if that's not a difficult thing to accept, I don't know what is, but let me give you a framework here that I heard from Alex Hermosi. I'm going to paraphrase, but he basically said, imagine that you are a soul and you're choosing the life you want to live. So you're talking with God and you say to God, hey, God, I want to be strong. I want to be courageous. I want to be temperate. I want to be wise. It's what would God say to you in this hypothetical situation? He would say, okay, I'm going to have to give you some challenges there. When you are foolish, I'm going to have to let you know that you're being foolish. So I'm going to have to slap you across the face. And that's going to hurt. It's going to sting. But I need you to accept that this is my way of telling you you're being foolish. If you want to become temperate, I'm going to have to tempt you a little bit. And when you give in to that temptation, I might have to kick you in the shin. I might have to give you a little bit of pain here. If you want to be courageous, if you want to be strong, I'm going to have to load up the barbell with some weight that's heavy. I'm going to have to overload progressively. And if you decide to take on a bit more than you can handle, I'm going to have to snap you up a little bit. I might have to tear your hamstring. And then you get that choice. So you're there and you're thinking, well, holy shit, that sounds like a lot of suffering. That sounds like a lot of punishment that I'm going to have to go through. And God says, well, yeah, that's kind of how it works, man. You literally cannot get where you want to go unless you're willing to accept this. And then you say, well, I don't know, Mr. G. I don't know if I want to accept all of that. And he says, well, fine. But just accept that you're going to be a fool. You're going to be weak. You're going to be a coward. You're going to give in to temptation all the time. You're going to have no strength, no courage. Hey there. Let me thank you for being a listener to this ad-free podcast. If you enjoy the podcast, there are a few things you can do to help me out. A 5-star review on Spotify or wherever you're listening to this really does help, and it's free. You can also sign up for my Substack newsletter or Patreon. Substack free gets each episode emailed to you along with the transcripts in the form of an article. You'll also get access to my live talks, followed by a Q&A afterward. Substack Premium supporters and my patrons on Patreon get access to the recordings and a brief article of those Q&A sessions, access to full episodes of the Paradoxically Speaking podcast, my Steps to Success interview series, Stoic meditations, and much more. Links to Substack and Patreon can be found in the show notes. I don't know about you, but that would probably scare me more. Just that idea that, okay, you're saying I'm going to be a coward my whole life. You're saying I'm going to be a fool. You're saying I'm going to be someone that doesn't know how to moderate themselves. I'm going to be someone that doesn't know how to moderate their emotions. For me, I would not accept that. I would choose the harder life, knowing that that's what that life will give me. That's the character that life will give me. Well, guess what? You get that choice every day. Every time you're confronted with a challenge, every time you're confronted with suffering, with pain, with challenges, with punishments, you get the choice to look life in the face, or God, if you're religious, if you believe in a deity, you get the chance to look God in the face and you get to say, I want to be strong. This is the road to strength. This is the road to courage. Therefore, I'm going to consider this a gift. I'm going to say, not woe is me. I'm going to say thank you. And I hope that I live up to this. I hope I live up to the standard that I want myself to grow into. Let me give you another quote here, and then we'll dive into that. This is a quote from Carl Jung. I haven't quoted Carl Jung in some time. There is no coming to consciousness without pain. And so here's another part of suffering that we don't often think about. Suffering, pain, punishments from life, these things make us more conscious. And what does it mean to be conscious? It means to be aware. It means to be self-aware. It means to be aware of your relationship to other people and your connection to other people. If you see someone with an injury at the gym, or let's say you see an elderly person who can no longer walk because that's just the stage of life they're at, you might not be able to empathize with them. You might not be able to have any real compassion for them. You're looking at them and you're a young person and you're squatting at the gym, hundreds of pounds of weight, and you're looking at this elderly person and you see them and they can barely walk. However, if you go in with a big ego and you're trying to impress that cute little girl in the corner with a big, 400-pound squat, and you tear your hamstring, and all of a sudden you go from someone who can squat 400 pounds to someone who can not even stand up. You have to spend a month in a wheelchair or with crutches because you tore your hamstring so bad. All of a sudden, you're able to empathize with that elderly person. All of a sudden, you're able to understand their pain. You know what it's like to not be able to walk. And you know that in any moment of time, your ability to walk can be taken away. And so, another way that we can see punishments, suffering, pain, setbacks, all of these things as a gift is that it allows us to empathize with other people that are going through something difficult, that are going through pain. It allows us to empathize. And what does empathy give us? Well, it gives us connection. It gives us community. It gives us the ability that when you see someone, an elderly person, struggling to get out of their seat on an airplane, and you think, man, last year I snapped my hamstring and I couldn't get up, and I had to have someone actually help me stand up. Maybe I can get up in front of all these people on the plane. Maybe I can ask this person if I could help them out of their seat, and maybe I can actually help them out of their seat. And I can guarantee you, if you're sitting on that plane and you see someone else get up and help someone else, you're going to think to yourself, well, what a kind act. What a courageous act. What a brave act. What an empathetic act. And what you're not seeing is the suffering that it took for you to get there, for someone to get there. Some people, I think, are just born with more empathy. But I think no matter who you are, you can open up empathy over time. You can become someone who can understand other people better. Unfortunately and fortunately, through suffering, through punishments, through pain. And so punishments, man, it opens up the ability for you to connect with other people. And man, isn't that why we're here? If we're not here to be that person that stands up on an airplane and helps that elderly person out of the seat when no one else would stand up and do it, isn't that why we're here? To be that person. Let me give you this quote from Rumi. The wound is the place where the light enters you. The wound. That hamstring that ripped clean off the bone. That is an opening in which light enters you. And you can take that light and you can turn it into something good. The last quote here that I can't help but end on because it's someone very, very strong. It's Bruce Lee. Do not pray for an easy life. Pray for the strength to endure a difficult one. And so this is the first episode of 2025, and I'm encouraging you that as you're looking forward to this year, and you're looking forward to the opportunities it's going to give you and the hopefully rewards, if you're lucky, man, if you're lucky, I'm encouraging you to also look forward to the punishments, look forward to the pain, look forward to the suffering, because you know that your ultimate goal is strength, it's courage, it's virtue, and for you to get there, you're going to have to go through some shit. And so don't see them as just punishments. See them also as gifts.